Good afternoon. I have invited Charles to provide a presentation to the senior management team. Charles and I were at boarding school together, and he has made a career in the financial services. He is now a chief executive officer within a leading bank. Can you please introduce yourself to Charles?
My name is Steve, and I am the head of estates.
My name is Tracy, and I am an administrative assistant.
George, head of strategy and planning.
Sue, head of finance.
Thank you. Charles is an expert in the global financial matters, and he is going to explain our current position.
Thank you, Tony. You may wonder why I have been invited to give this presentation to you. Quite simply, we all have to get used to a new reality. The debt-based fractional reserve banking monetary system is coming to an end, and it is going to be very painful. We have to get real. I am no doom and gloom person. I get no satisfaction in presenting bad news. I do, however, understand the current global financial system, and I do know that the unsustainable path of the debt-based monetary system is coming to an end. That is a mathematical certainty.
I have been hearing for years that there is going to be a financial collapse. It simply is not happening. In fact, there are encouraging growth figures from the U.S.
Steve, I am going to be blunt with you. You are suffering from normalcy bias. Sorry to sound blunt, Steve, but you are in denial. Let's have a look at a video clip on the matter.
It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Mark Twain. Normalcy bias is when people underestimate the possibility of a disaster and the possible effects of that disaster. Everything is fine today. That is our illusion. Voltaire. Normalcy bias is a direct result of people failing to question things, blindly obeying authority, or failing to apply logic to a new set of information. This ignorance is bliss mentality is so dangerous during times of upheaval as they fall into a false sense of security. This leads to no urgency to take massive dramatic action in the face of crisis. History has shown over and over again that just when things seem so peaceful, it is only because that they are so controlled. This is a natural precursor to things exploding out of control. The worst lies are the lies we tell ourselves. We live in denial of what we do and even what we think. We do this because we're afraid.
I have been working within the financial services for over 20 years and have seen many changes. They do not benefit the average person, only the elite.
Do you consider yourself as one of the elite?
Yes, I do. I have been smart enough to play the system.
Why are you admitting this to us?
I am a very good friend of Tony. He persuaded me to tell his senior management team as it is. I have reached an age to reflect on how I made my millions, and to be honest, the game is rigged. I deal with facts, not perception. I am driven by logic, not faith.
That sounds rather cold.
Steve, people need to see matters clearly. We are entering very dangerous times financially. The Federal Reserve Bank in the U.S. was established in 1913. There is nothing federal about it. The Federal Reserve Bank is a private bank and loans money to the U.S. government with interest.
Surely not. How could the U.S. government allow this?
There has always been tensions between the U.S. government and the banking elite to control the money supply. Following the Panic of 1907, that was orchestrated by the banking elite. It was decided that a central bank should be created. The banking elite loaned out money into existence with interest.
That's correct, and that's why money is debt.
Up until 1971, there was a sensible fractional reserve ratio of 1:9. In other words, 1 unit of gold in the vaults had to support 9 units of currency loaned into existence. Richard Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard in 1971 to pay for the Vietnam War. The dollar became a fiat currency, in other words, backed by nothing.
Okay, what is the problem with that?
Steve, that's when our problems started. Whilst we had a sensible fractional reserve ratio with gold in reserve, the amount of money loaned into existence was controlled. Yes, we still had our boom and busts, but they were manageable. When the dollar became a fiat currency, the fractional reserve ratio went out of kilter, a term in the financial circles known as over-leveraging.
I was able to borrow lots of money on my credit card and have bought loads of things that I wanted. If the banks did not lend the money to me, I could not have had the latest iPhone, or the new shoes I am wearing.
The banks have lent money to me. It gave me an opportunity to buy the latest 55-inch 3D Panasonic television with a contrast ratio of 1 to 5 million and a frame rate of 600 Hz. It is so much better than the 50-inch TV I bought last year.
Steve and Racy, welcome to becoming a wage slave.
What do you mean?
As Tony said, money is debt. In order to increase the money supply, it has to be borrowed into existence. Therefore, the fractional reserve ratio has to be increased.
What's wrong with that?
Increasing the money supply is inflationary. It debases the money in circulation. Credit cards have a massive interest payment. Bank loans also have high interest payments. Subprime lending was also irresponsible. Many people could not afford to pay back their mortgages. The introduction of derivatives will also be our downfall. I won't ask how much you owe, but I guess it is quite substantial.
I don't mind telling you, I owe about £35,000 excluding my mortgage payments. But hey, everyone is in debt.
I owe about 28,000 with my credit cards and payday loans. I am having a great time.
It's sad, but your mentality reflects so many people today. Steve, what is your understanding of the budget deficit?
It's the amount of money we owe.
I am afraid not. The budget deficit is the difference between what the government receives in taxes and expenditure. Every year the public debt is increasing. In the UK we are trying to reduce the budget deficit with austerity measures. Unfortunately, this will not work as we will suffer the paradox of thrift.
Why don't we do what the US is doing, grow our way out by spending more money?
The problem is, Steve, the US raised its debt ceiling to $16.4 trillion last August. A tipping point of debt has passed. The debt will never be paid back, as the interest payments are now becoming a crippling amount. So you see, there is no solution at all. The debt-based monetary system is failing.
Surely we have been in this position before?
I am afraid not. Never in the history of mankind have we been in a synchronized global massive debt. The experiment of the fiat debt-based monetary system was never sustainable.
So what is going to happen?
There will be good news. Optimism will sweep in the US and UK. The quantitative easing program will continue in an attempt to try and prevent the deflationary spiral. However, it will cause price inflation and reduce the standard of living for the ordinary person. The steady decline of their standard of living will become the norm. Wages and conditions of service will continue to deteriorate as global competition takes hold. If you think matters are bad in Greece now, watch out for what will happen in the near future. Spain is next. The Ponzi scheme is collapsing.
Where does that leave you?
I have done very well out of the debt-based monetary system. I have become very rich, because Steve, the likes of you and Tracy have become poorer. You will find it very hard to pay back your loans as your standard of living will be eroded by inflation. The gap between rich and poor will continue to widen, that is, until the public wake up.